Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to build this Netflix homepage with HTML and CSS. As always, we start with an empty directory, and here I'll create new file and index.html. And inside this file, I will add some basic HTML5 like this. Here we have some information about the language. Here is the encoding for UTF-8. Here is the viewport, so we can do responsive media queries in our CSS. And here is the title, so we can change this to Netflix. All right, and here now inside the body, let's just put test. And now I will open preview in my Chrome, and we have test here. You can also open preview by drag and dropping the index HTML file to your browser. Okay, so now the first part is this intro section with this form, some header, some more text, and here we have some site header here at the top. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sections with some videos or animations on each side. And then we have some frequently asked questions, and here we have accordion or dropdown, and I will try to do this without the JavaScript. Here we have just some small form, and here is the site footer. Right, so let's start from the top. At the top we have header with the logo, and on the right side we have this select dropdown with this button. So I will open header tag like this, and first we have a left side and then we have right side. So I will put two divs, so div times 2 like this, and inside my first div I will put the logo, and inside another I will put those two buttons. And I created those two divs so I can put them on each side. All right, so now for the logo, let's inspect and let's check it. We have an SVG here, so we can copy this. So to add it as HTML, copy. And now inside my first div, I will just put it like this. All right, and now inside our another div, let's put a select. So we can have a select with language. We can get rid of those attributes. And now just two options. And the first one will be with English and the other will be with Swedish. So English and Swedish. All right. And then after the select, we have this sign in button. So under the select, let's do button. Inside, let's do sign in like this. Now let's see how it looks like. Well, it looks interesting. Now let's add some CSS so we can correctly. So here inside our head, let's do link to style sheet, and the ref will be a link to our CSS, but we don't have any yet. So here inside our directory, I will create a new file, and let's call this one styles.css. Yeah, so we have this file, and now we can link inside our HTML. So here let's do styles.css. Right, now let's go to style CSS, and now let's add some styles. So we can put this logo on the left side and those two on the right side. So everything is inside header, and I will do this by changing the display to grid, and then I will change grid template columns, and then I will do 1FR. And what this means is that we'll have two columns, and each of the column will take the same amount of space. That's why this logo took half of the screen here, half of the browser, and another half is for the select and sign in. Right, but then we have this logo that is black and it's too big. So let's go back to index.html and let's see. So we have this SVG image, that is this Netflix logo, but let's put it inside a tag, so it will be a link to our homepage. And now let's put this SVG inside this a tag. Oops, like this, cut, and let's paste it here, like this. All right, so now we have a link. And inside this link, we have SVG image. Right, so let's add a class name to this link called logo, so it will be easier for us to style it. And then inside header, we have a logo link. And for this logo, let's style our SVG. And inside this SVG, we need to change the logo color to red. So let's see if I click here and we have this color here. So I can copy this. Now here fill, and now this red color. All right, let's see. Yeah, it's red. So now we need to change the size of it. So let's see what is the size. It's 37 pixels in height. So let me change it. Let's put height here, 37 pixels like this. Let's see how it looks like. It looks much better. Right, now we need some padding because here there is too little space. So, and here we have much more space. So let's see how much space do we have here. It's 26 from the top, and from the sides it's like 56. 26, 56. So inside our header we can do padding, and the first is from the top and the bottom, so 26 pixels, and now from the sides 56 pixels. Now if I save, let's see, yeah, this looks much better. So now the problem is that those two are aligned to the left and those should be aligned to the right. So inside our header we have two divs, and the second div should be aligned to the right. So how we can do this? We can do a div plus div, so it will be the second div, and here text align but not center but right. Now those two are on the right side. All right, but let's style those. First maybe the button, because it will be much easier. So inside header we have a button, or actually it is a link that looks like a button. So instead of doing a button like this, I will go back to index.html and let's change this button to a tag with a link to, I don't know, somewhere like login or something. And so now it will be changed to a link. Yeah, we have sign in link, but it should look like a button. So let's add a class name, button, and now back to style CSS. And instead of styling the button, we do a, and now class name will be button. And here we need to add some styling and colors and everything. So the first is this background color. That is this Netflix red. So I will copy from here and put it here. And the next part is the color of the text. That is white. So FFF. All right. Let's see how it looks like. It looks really bad. We need to get rid of this underline. So text decoration none, yeah. And now we need to add some spacing. So let's check what's the spacing here. I check padding and scroll to the top, and it's 7 from the top and the bottom and 17 on the sides. Right. So I will do the same, padding 7 and 17. Let's see how it looks like. Now the thing is that we need rounded corners, and it's inside the border radius, and it's 3 pixels. So let's do border radius 3 pixels. Let's see how it looks like. Yeah, now the only problem is this font is really ugly. Let's see what the font is Netflix using. So font family, and they have their own Netflix font, but we can keep the rest. So at the top I will do HTML or maybe body, and now I will put this font family, but we'll just remove the first part. So it will first try with Helvetica Neue, then Helvetica Arial, or any sans serif that is available on the operating system. All right, now if we save it, now the font is much better. All right, so we have the button, but I think we need to, yeah, it's not aligned. All right, so let's inspect here and let's see what is going on. All right, so we have this SVG, but it's going outside of this A tag, so we need to fix it. So inside our header, we have an A tag with class name logo, and let's fix the position. So let's do this to display as a block. Now let's see. Yeah, now it's much better. It sits inside this div and inside this header. But the button is outside of our header. Let's see why. We have this other div here. We have select and we have this button. All right, so maybe let's try to put display to inline block. Yeah, it moved. Now it's inside this div and inside the header. That's much better. All right, so now let's fix this select here. As you can see, we can select Swedish and we have this small icon here, and the style is much better. So it has this white border, white text. So let's do this. So inside header, let's style select, and the select should have background transparent, and then color should be white, right? Let's see. Kind of work, but we can't see the text because our background is white. So let's just fix it inside our body. Let's put background color and here black, so 3 zeros, and now we see the text here. All right, but let's add some padding, and let's add this small icon here. So here, let's add some padding, maybe the same that we were using for the button. So it will be 7 pixels and 17 pixels from the sides. Let's see how it looks like. Oops, I forgot about colon. Yeah, now it's much better. We need to decrease because of the border. Let's try 5. Yeah, now it's almost aligned. Let's do 6. Yeah, that's much better. And now let's do some border radius of 3 pixels. Yeah. And now let's add this icon. To get this icon, I will use hero icons. And here let's search for world. Here we have it. This one looks nice. I will copy SVG. So now for this icon, let's go back to our index.html. And here we have the select, but we need to put this globe icon next to the select. So I'll create another div. I'll put the icon here. And now I will also put the select inside this div. So it will be here. Yeah. So inside this div, we have this SVG icon and this select. Let's see how it looks like. And we don't see anything. Let's see why. We have this header that is huge. And here we have our select and button. And I think it's because this icon became really huge. But don't worry, we can fix it. And let's add some class name to the div. Let's add a class name select. So it will be easier. And now back to CSS. And let's do header div with class name select. And here inside we have this SVG. Let's change the height to maybe 20 pixels. Yeah. And the fill color will be white, so FFF. Yeah. And we have our icon here. But now we need to move it inside. So now we will do this by changing the SVG position to absolute. Yeah, almost there. But we need to add some margin from the top. So margin top, let's try with 2 pixels, more 5. And now from the left, margin left. And let's do also pixels. That's too much. That's 2. Yeah, that's much better. Let's see how it looks like with the comparing to the Netflix. Yeah, I think it has much less space here. So I will also change it. Inside our select, we have padding 6 from the top and the bottom and 17 from the sides. But we want only to be 17 from the left side and much less from the right side. So let's padding right, and I try with 5 pixels. That's better. Let's try with 0. Yeah, I think we'll go with 0. And now it tells me that it could be placed as a one command here. So let's do like this. Yeah, let's maybe add some more to the left, 20. And let's move this globe a little more. So from the left, let's do 4 pixels. Yeah, that's much better. Now the problem is that this select is on above this sign in button. And this is because we put it inside our div here. So let's style this div select to be an inline block. So I'll copy this. And now let's do display inline block. Yeah, that's much better. Let's see. Yeah, that's better. All right, now let's add some more spacing here between those two. So here we have around, I don't know, 30 pixels. So now inside our select, let's just do margin right 30 pixels. Done. All right. Now the next part will be this background image and the form. Here we have this splash text. And here we have this form, we have some wrappers, and we have this huge image that I will just copy to my index.html. Let's see, we have this header here that we are done with. So here under the header, I can create a new element. Let's call this one div with class name splash. So we'll have this whole splash screen here. All right, and here we want to put this image somewhere. So let's just paste it here for now. So let's create a div called background, and inside this, background, and inside it, let's put this image. We can get rid of those class names like this. And as you can see, they are using source, but they are also using source set. So they can display different sizes of the images depending how big the screen is. So for the small mobiles, it will show just a small image to skip loading high resolution image that are made for desktop users. Alright, so now let's see how it looks like. Yeah, we have this image and we need to style it. Alright, so we have splash and then we have background and then we have this image. Alright, so let's go to styles and then let's do div and splash, and inside this we have this with background and there we have this image. So first let's do that width of this image can be max 100%. Yeah, this is much better. But now I don't know if you can see, but we have this small padding on the sides here and here. And this is because we need to get rid of default browser padding. So at the top, I will add for all elements, let's get rid of the padding and margin that is default for the browsers. And I would take, now the image takes the full width of my browser. Right, now let's compare with Netflix. And as you can see, it's dimmed a little. There's this black shadow top and the bottom. And this is made with some CSS gradients. Let me find this. So here inside this div, they added 40% of black overlay and we'll add it too. So here we need to put 40% black on this image. So we can do this in two different ways. Either we can add another div that will be on this image with 40% of black, or we can dim the image by 60%. So I will do the second approach and I will do just opacity on this image with 0.6. So it will be 60% opacity and 40% the background from the bottom. So now it's dimmed. Now I want to add those shadows from the top and the bottom. So let me find those. So here we have background image of linear gradient, and I will just copy this and I will add it inside our background div. So div splash, div background, and let's put it here. And now we should also have, now the gradient is not visible, and that is because we have image above this gradient. So to fix it, we need to add another div. So let's go back to index.html, and here after the image, let's put a div with class name gradient. It will be empty just for styling, and then let's do div splash and then div gradient, and here inside we can put this gradient here from here, and we can get rid of this one. Now our gradient is not visible. As you can see, we don't have any extra black color on the top and the bottom, but let's inspect it. So here we have the background and here is the gradient. It's 0 pixels on the height. So let's change it. We want our gradient to take the whole space here. So first we need to update this one to make this position relative. So then inside our gradient, that is also inside the background, we can do position absolute and we can do inset to 0. So now, as you can see, we have some extra dark color on the top and here at the bottom. And now what this does is that we position our gradient absolute to the nearest relative div, that is our parent. If we wouldn't have it, it will be moved to the body. So this dark shadow will be somewhere here and somewhere here. And inset 0 means 0 from the top, 0 from the bottom, 0 from the left, and 0 from the right. So it will be full width and full height. All right. We could do the same by doing top 0, bottom 0, left 0, right 0. All right. So now, as you can see, we have our header above this splash screen. And here we have our header that is on the splash screen. So to fix it, we will go back to our header. And here we'll just do, here we need to change the position. We can change it to position absolute, and now it's not visible because we need to change the index to, let's try with maybe 5. Yeah, now it's here. By changing that index, we are changing which layer should show first and which layer should show second and third and stuff like this. And if the Z index is bigger, then it means it should be on the top. So if we would change this splash Z index on the splash div to above the 5, it will be on top of this header div. But now, as you can see, because we have changed this position to absolute, our element doesn't take the full width. So we can So we need to set it manually. So let's do width 100%. And now it takes more space than it should. And it's because the header is 100%, but then we have some extra spacing on the sides. And the browser thinks it should put 100% and the padding on the sides on top of it. To change this, I'll put this on all elements. I will change box sizing to border box. And what this does is it will calculate the width. And when it does calculating the width, it will include the padding and border and everything. So now even if our header is 100%, it's 100% including the padding from the sides. All right, but now this works. And the next part is this form with headers, those texts. So let's go to our index.html. And we need another element where we can put all this information. So we can put it inside the div, but I was thinking let's just put it inside the form. We will get rid of this action. And inside, I'll put it inside the form because we have this input and the button here. But the first thing we have is this huge header. Then we have a smaller header, and then we have even smaller header here. So I will put h1 as header 1, the most important one, and I will just copy this text here like this. Then we have smaller header, so we'll copy this one too, and I'll put it inside h2. And then this small, we could put it inside the paragraph tag or h3. It doesn't matter. I would just use h3 because, well, it's shorter, right? I don't know. It's easier to remember, right? So we have 3 headers, and then after the headers, we have this input and we have this button here. So I need to put those two in a separate container. So I was thinking about putting those inside the div, but I think it would be better to use a form here and our parent will be changed to a div because the form is just those 2 elements. So here inside our form, let's do input, yes, of type text, but we can actually change this to email and this will work much better. So when someone opens this in mobile and clicks on this input, they will see the @ sign. So it will be easier to type email addresses, and also auto-completion in mobile will suggest an email. So that's why I changed it to email. And the second thing is a button. So let's do button, and here get started like this. And here we have this chevron, but we can do greater than sign like this. And now it should look like trash, and it does. We have this text here, and here we have those inputs. All right, so let's style this a little bit. Let's see, the text should be white. Right, so let's go to our CSS, and we could style those text colors somewhere here, but as you can see, all texts are white. So let's change it at the top here somewhere. So let's put it inside our body. Let's say color is white. It will be our default color on all texts. So now if we go here, yeah, the texts are white. And now we need to put those here inside our splash screen. So our background is relative, but the container with our texts is not inside the div background. So I think we can actually make relative this whole div with splash. And now as you can see, the shadow has been moved here on those texts, but we can fix it. So let's see how it looks like here. We have a div, and here we have all the texts. We need to style this div. So let's add a class name. And how we can call this one. Let's call this one content. All right, so it will be easier to put it here. So div inside our splash, we have div with class name content. And now let's also do position absolute and inset to 0. Yeah, and we have it here at the top. So now we want to assign all the content to the middle. So we can center it by doing display grid and then align items to center. Yeah, and now to put all those next to each other, let's put those inside another div here, and here I will just put them here. Yeah, that's much better. But let's also add this text align to center. Yeah, and now it's much better. All right, now let's try to fix those headers. So first, the size of each header. So let's check the first one. Let's inspect. And as you can see, there is font size of this 3.15125 rem. So here in my CSS, I will do div splash, and here I can do just directly h1, and here I can just paste it like this. Now let's check the sizing. Yeah, right now, right, but now we need to make this box more narrow. So let's check what is the width of this box, more or less 655, right? So div content should have max width of 655 pixels. Yeah, save. Now it needs to be centered. So I will do left 50%. And now the trick is to do margin left of minus. And now the half of this. So it will be 327 and half, if my calculation is correct. Yeah, it looks fine. Right, now let's check the size of this one. So we have font size of 1.725. So let's do this one, div splash h2, this size, and we can also do h3. So let's check the size, 1.2. So we can do div splash h3 font size 1.2 like this. And those values are multiplication of the base sizing. So for example, 3 point something is 3 times bigger than the standard default font size. So this one will be just 20% bigger. This one will be over 3 times bigger than the default font size. So let's see, it looks fine, but now we need to fix the spacing. So between those two, the first and the second, all right, so they did it this way, that the first has no spacing after or under, the second has spacing from the top and the bottom, and the third has some spacing from the top. So I will just add spacing here on the second. So let's see on here on computed, it's 16 pixels from the top and the bottom, and the third part with this form has some spacing here that is 13. Okay, so we have 16 and 13, right? So on our H2, let's do margin top of, I thought this was 13, and margin bottom, and I think it was 13 plus 16, so it will be 29 pixels. Yeah, looks good. Now those shouldn't be bold as they are here. All of them should be thin, maybe except the first one, or even the first one. So let's try. Let's put thin variant on all of them. So H1 and div splash H2 and div splash H3. On all of those, that's why I have comma here, I want to do font size, font wave, normal. Now they are not bold, but the first one kinda is. Let's see what do they use here. Font wave, they use bold here on the first one. So let's make all of those normal, but only on the first one. Let's do font size, font wave of bold. Now let's check. Yeah, it looks fine. Right, now let's fix this form. So as you can see, it looks like this on our side. So let's fix it. So inside div splash, we have our form. And first I want to make it display of grid, so I can use some columns and stuff. So now the first part is this input. The first column is this input. The second is this button. So I want the first part take as much space as possible, and the second column or part should take only as little space as possible. So I'll do grid, template columns, and here 1fr, and then max, oops, without comma, max content. Now if I check my, yeah, as you can see, the input takes all the possible space, and the button takes only the space that the content inside this button needs. If I would change it to max content first and then 1fr, the button will take all the space and input will just take the space it really needs. But let's put it back like this. And now let's fix the styling for our input and the button. So div splash form, or we can do directly an input. All right, so the input needs to be much bigger. So let's see, they have some padding here. They have some placeholder, and we want also to have this animation that the placeholder moves here. So let's first fix this spacing and make it bigger. So let's inspect it and let's see computed. It's 10 pixels from the left and right. So let's do padding, 10 pixels from the top and the bottom, 10 pixels from the sides. But if we add a third param, it will be the bottom. I will do 0, and now the first param is only the top. Here we have sides, and here is the bottom. So let's see how it looks like. Yeah, we have this input here, but I will actually just put also 10 pixels here. So everything will be 10 pixels, so to look better, yeah, like this. And now we also need some spacing between this H3 and the form. Let's see how much is it. If I take this, it's 20 pixels. So from the form, let's do margin top, 20 pixels. Yeah, now the size of the text we put here. Let's see what it is. Font size should be 1.2. So let's add it here. Font size 1.2 rem. Yeah, so we can put some letters here. So now let's do this floating placeholder. So as you can see, we have email address as a placeholder, but when I focus on the input, it moves here to the top. So when I click it, it moves to the top. Right, so let's go to our index.html. And now we have this input here at the first left side, and then we have our button on the right side. But because we need to add another element that will be our label, we need to create two separate divs as a containers for left and right column. So let's put div here and another div here with the button. Yeah. And now alongside input, let's add span with our label that will be email address. Yeah. So we have it here and everything is destroyed because now this first div takes as much space as possible. And here we have both input and this label. So let's try to style it. So for the div splash input that has a span next to it, let's make it position absolute. And let's do left 0 and top 0. So now we have it here. And to fix it, we need to add position relative on this form. So it's the position relative. So now we have it here. Now let's add on input with 100%. So it will take all space that is available inside this left column. And here under we have our span that will be our placeholder. So let's bring it up. So z index is the maybe 3. And now let's change color to maybe DDD. Yeah, we have it here. Let's move it a little. So left 10 pixels and top 10 pixels. And let's make it darker. Let's say AAA. Yeah, let's move it a little lower, 14 pixels. Yeah, that's better. So now if we click on the input, we want to move this label above. So let's do div splash input focus, and then the span should be moved, let's say to top of 2 pixels. Yeah, so now if we click this input, it moves up. But let's also make it smaller. So let's do font size of not 1.2, maybe 0.8 rem. Yeah, so now if we click inside this input, it moves up and it's smaller. But let's add some animation or transition. Transition all 0.3 seconds is, so that's some default animation. Yeah, now it moves. But let's move even the value of the input a little lower, so we'll have some spacing. So div splash input focus. Let's change the padding from the bottom to 8 and the top to 12. So padding top to, let's say, 14 pixels and padding bottom to just 6 pixels. Yeah, this works. Now the problem is that we have label here above, and when we click directly on this text, we can't focus on the input. And to fix it, let's go here inside span and let's add pointer events to none. So now if we click it, it just moves above. Let's maybe add some more left to 12. Yeah, so it's aligned with our cursor. Let's make it faster, 0.15. Yeah, now that's better. All right, so now the button on the right side. Let's see how it looks like. It's huge here. So let's check the size, 1.625. So let's do div splash button font size 1.625 rem, like this. Now we need some spacing, so let's check computed layout here. It's 8 pixels or even more. is 26 on each side. So let's do padding, and let's start with 0 at the top and the bottom and 26 on each side. Let's save it. Yeah, that's better. Now let's add maybe padding on the top and the bottom to 10. That's too much. Let's try 8. Too much. 5. Yeah, that's better. Maybe 6. Yeah, I think it's better. 5.5 pixels. Yeah, now I think it's aligned. Right, now let's add this color. So here at the top we have this Netflix red. So we'll copy this one. And here let's do background color, Netflix red. And color of the button should be white. Of the text should be white. And it is. But we have this ugly border here. So let's do border 0. That's better. And now we can see it's not aligned. So let's add some more padding from the top and the bottom. Let's try with 7. Yeah, I think now it's aligned. Let's compare. I think those are much bigger. Let's see. Here we have 60 pixels and we have 50. So let's change this to 12. And inside our input, let's do 15 pixels from the top and the bottom. And now our span should be also moved. So let's do 19. And then we click here. We should update also padding here. So do 19 here and 11 here. Let's see now. Yeah, that's better. We can also change this one to make it a little lower. Yeah, that's much better. That's super beautiful. Let's see. Yeah, looks nice. All right, I think we are done with this part, with the splash. So now the next part are those sections. As you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sections, where on each section we have some text on one side and animation videos on another side. So let's go back to our index.html, and under the div with splash, let's add, it could be a div, but I will call those sections. So we need actually 4 sections, and inside each section, I will add a div that will have text inside. So I will put div with class name texts, and I will put another div, another column with div with class name, let's call it media. And now if I hit tab, I have 4 sections, but I also want to put some texts on each. So let's do inside each div with class name texts. Let's do h1 with text enjoy on your TV, that, and also a paragraph with a text that I will just paste. Okay, now let's generate this. Yeah, it has been generated. Let's see how it looks like. It looks really bad. All right, but we can fix it. So first let's fix the size of the texts. So we have section and then we have div with texts. All right, so inside our CSS, let's do that section will always have 2 columns. So let's do display of grid, and now grid template columns will be 1fr, 1fr, because there will be 2 columns and each column will have the same width. Yeah, and it takes 50% now, so that's good. Now let's fix the sizing of the texts. So let me inspect it. We have this size inside h1, so div, not section, div texts, h1 will have this size. And now the same, so section, div texts, but paragraph, let's see what will be the size here. The size here will be this. Now let's check it. Yeah, that's better. Now let's do some padding. So as you can see, we have some gap here. So between those 2 columns, there should be a gap. This yellow in the middle, let's see here, computed, it's 48 pixels. I will fix it using grid. So let's do gap 46 pixels like this. Oops, and I missed F here. Let's see how it looks like. It looks better. Now let's fix the spacing here at the top and the bottom and here from the sides. So here, as you can see, it's 45 on the sides and 70 on the top and the bottom. So each section, let's do padding of 70 pixels from the top and the bottom and 45 on the sides. Let's see it now. Yeah, we are getting there. Maybe we can make it a little bit smaller because we are using different font. So we'll get all the titles in place. That's 35. Yeah, let's do 35 on the sides. All right, but now we need to put some media here. So as you can see, they have this div on the other side with an image that is actually empty TV, and they have another div with a video that is looping. So I will copy this video like this, and I'll go back to index.html, and now inside our first media, we need to create something similar. So let's create the div that will have both the image and the video. So let's put the image, that will be empty for now. And let's also put the video that we copied. So for the image, I will just copy the path to the image from the Netflix site and paste it here. And let's see how it looks like. It looks terrible, but it kind of works. It's looping the video. And let's see, we don't need those class names of the video element. It has autoplay, play in line, it's muted, and it's looping. Okay, and here we have the source to the video. It says it's MP4. All right, but now we need to place it inside our image. So media, let's do S section 1, so S1. So let's do that media.S1 to make it simple. And now let's try to place it. So now the first problem is that this image is too big. So let's do that image. We will have a fixed width of, let's try 400 pixels. Yeah, but why is it under? Okay, that's because we have it inside our media. So we have all media inside our div with texts, and that's not what I wanted. I wanted to have it alongside. So also on those three, I'll move it here like this. And the last one. So now let's check it. If I inspect here, yeah, now we have this section with texts and we have this image here. All right. So now let's go back to style CSS. And now also with media S1, but now with the video, let's make it width of, I don't know, 300 pixels. Yeah, now we need to put this video inside this TV. So let's say that every media div should have position relative, so we can use absolute positioning on the images and videos. All right, so each media div should be position relative like this. Now we can check the size of this TV image on the Netflix side. It's 400 and the video it's 293. So almost there. 293 like this. Let's see. Yeah, now we just need to do position absolute top. Let's try 0 and left 0. Yeah, so now we have it here. Now we need to put it lower and more to the left. Let's see how much. 50 pixels on each. Top 50 pixels, left 50 pixels. Yeah, almost there. A little more from the left. Let's see 3 and more from the top. Let's say 8. A little bit more. Let's try 60. Even more, 62. Yeah, and now we have our video inside our TV. We can do 52 here. Yeah, so we have frame on both left and right side. All right, let's close this one. And now the problem is that the texts have some space here. Let's check it. Yeah, it's 8 pixels. So under H1, let's do margin bottom, 8 pixels. How it looks now. Yeah, it looks better. Now, let's see. This thing takes too much space at the bottom. And the texts are not centered vertically. Now to center those texts, I will go to section and let's do align items center. Yeah, so now the texts are vertically centered. All right. Now on every other section, I want the texts to be on the other side. So let's do that each section, or not each section, but section of nth child, that will be even, so second and fourth. And on this section, let's go to div texts and let's do order of 2. So now the second and the fourth section div texts is on the right side. All right, now let's check media on this second section. So here we have image, and then we have downloading text, and we have this border, and we have this as another image, and we have this GIF about downloading. All right, so let's go back to our HTML, and inside other media, let's also copy those texts. So inside our other H1, let's paste this one and this thing to paste like this. All right, and now inside other media, we need to place an image. So let's do image and let's copy the path to the image. So I have this image, but now we also need to make this thing downloading part. So let's do div download, and here inside we have a cover here, a text and a GIF. So let's start with the image and let's check the path to this image. So I will copy this and I will put it here. Then we have a text, so we'll put it inside the span. It says downloading with 3 dots. Yeah, and the last part is this GIF or animation. So let's see, here we have it. It's this image. Let me copy this thing, copy, let's do image, source, oops, paste. Yeah, let's see, it looks really bad, but it kind of works. So now, the one problem we have is that all those images take too much space. And there's one fix that many websites use, is that on the top of CSS we can do on all images, we can do max width of 100 pixels of 100%. And now for all images that will take maximum of 100% in width. All right, now it will be a little easier. So now we need this div that will get this, that will have this cover, this downloading, and this downloading icon animation here. So let's see how it looks like. It's like this. All right, we need to have some class name for it. Okay, we have download here, so we can use it. So let's do section and here div download. And now we need this border. So let's do border. I think it's 2 pixels. It's solid and it's around AAA or maybe 888. It has some border radius. So let's start with maybe 5 pixels and let's see how it looks like. Yeah, almost there. It needs to be darker. So I would do 666. Let's see. Yeah, now we need more border radius. So I will do 15. Let's see. Yeah, that's better. Let's make it smaller and let's add some spacing. Let's see here. It's around 10 pixels on each side. So let's do padding 10 pixels from everywhere. Now here inside we have this small tiny icon and we have this downloading and then we have this animation here. So let's see what is the height of this, and it's 95. So I'll just do height 95 pixels. Right, now let's see how it looks like here. Yeah, almost there. Let's first fix the image. So section div download and the image, but the first image, because then we have the second image with this animation. So on the first image, let's add class name of cover. So we can point the first image, image.cover. And in this image, we want to do height of 100% and the width auto. Let's see. Yeah, that's better. We want also to make it on another image. So let's try maybe like this. Yeah, now it's better because on both images, they take 100% of the width of this parent div. So that's awesome. But now let's spread it around. So I will put display grid here and now grid template columns. I will do max content on the first, then 1FR in the middle, then max content on the right. And this didn't work because now those images take as much width as possible. Let's try with min content. Now they are not even visible. So I'll go back to max content, but on the images, instead of height 100%, I would do height of 75 pixels. Yeah, that's better. Why 75? Because the div is 95 in height, and then we have 10 pixels from the top and the bottom. So 95 minus 20 will be 75. All right, so now for downloading text, let's just put text align center on everything. Yeah, and align items center. Yeah, so now it's in the middle. So we almost have it. Now the only problem is that we need to move it up a little bit. So as before, I will do just position absolute here and maybe from the bottom this time, let's do 20 pixels. Yeah, but now it doesn't take the whole width. So let's do width 100%. Yeah, but now we need this background color that is black. So let's do background color and 000. Yeah, that's better. But it shouldn't be 100% in the width, should it? No, it should not. So let's check the width of this. It's 268. Okay, so width 270 pixels. Now let's see. Yeah, but now it needs to be centered. So let's do left of 50% and now margin left of minus 135, just half of the width. All right, now it's much better. Let's see, we could add some spacing here. So here let's add gap of, let's try 5 pixels, maybe more, 15. Yeah, that's better, but we need to make it wider. Let's add 5 pixels here and 10 pixels here. Yeah, that's better. Now let's move to the third section. So on the third section, we have this image and another video inside. So let's grab the image. We have this image. Let's put it inside our third section. Third section media. So we have an image that has source of this. And let's add also media S3. So it will be third media. And then we also have this video. Let's check it. Where do we have it? And we have it here. So I will just copy and I will put it here. All right. And think it will look like trash. And it does. So now let's go back to our style CSS. And I think I could just copy everything from the first part. So let's copy this style for image and the video. And let's see how it will look like on the third. Yeah, it's definitely better, but it needs to be smaller. And the video needs to be behind the image. So let's put the image as position relative so we can add some Z index. And now the Z index of the image should be higher. So Z index, let's try with 5. Yeah. So now we have video behind this image. The image has some transparent window here. So that's why it has hole inside. But now let's make the video smaller. So let's maybe try with 260, smaller, 240, yeah, and more to the left, 70, almost there. Let's see where it is. A little more, 250, more to the top. Let's try 56. Let's see where it is. Let's do even higher, 36. Yeah, I think that will work. Right, now the fourth section. Let's check it. And here we have just an image. So let's just copy this one. And let's go to our index.html. And here, inside our fourth media, let's just put it like here. And let's see. And this one just works without any problems. So we have 4 sections. Now, on each section, there is this gray bar before and after. So let's go back to our style CSS. And let's scroll to the styles of our sections. And let's do border top. And it's around 5 pixels. A solid border. And the color, let's see what is the color. Here, border, it's 222. Right, 222. Let's see. Yeah, we have it here. And I think it should be wider. Yeah, it's 8 pixels. Yeah, that is much better. And we also need to put it after the last section. So we didn't change all the texts, but you can do it yourself. All right, so for the last section, let's go to index.html. And for the last section, let's add a class name that will be last. And now inside our style CSS, let's do section.last. And here border bottom will be the same, but for the bottom. Yeah, and we have this border here. All right, so now the next part is this FAQ questions. So let's go back to our index.html and let's do div with class name FAQ like this. H1, let's just copy this text like this. So we have H1 header. And now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions. So let's do div questions, and inside this div we'll have div question like this. And now inside each question we'll have a title. So let's do div with class name header of the question, and then div with class name content, the content of the answer. So inside the content of the answer, I will just put those 2 texts like this. And inside header, I will just type what is Netflix like this. And then we also have an icon here that I want to have. So I will go to hero icons and let's search for plus or maybe close. It's the same thing. So let's take this X and let's copy SVG and let's put it here. Now let's see how it looks like here. It looks terrible, but we can style it inside our style CSS. So we have div with FAQ, and we don't want to style anything special here, but maybe let's style h1 first. So our h1, this header, should be this big, and we should also have some spacing. So let's see what is the spacing here. Let's see, computed, and it's the same spacing we had with those sections. So for the div with class name FAQ, let's do padding 70 pixels from the top and the bottom, and I think it was 30 pixels from the sides. Yeah, now the header should be centered and the questions should be also centered. So header, text, align, center, and now also this box with the questions should be narrow. So let's say it's 635. So div questions max width 635 pixels. And let's see, yeah. Now we also want this one to be centered. So the margin 0 from the top and the bottom and auto from the sides. So we have this, what is Netflix, here centered. All right, now let's make this X icon smaller because it's annoying. So for div with question, let's make it position relative. And inside div question, we have an SVG icon. And this one should be, I don't know, width of 30 pixels. And height should be also 30 pixels. Yeah, so it's small. So it's here, but it should be on the right side. So let's do right of, I don't know, 10 pixels. And also top of 10 pixels. And position absolute. Yeah, so now it's here on the right side. Now we need to style it a little bit. So div question, we should change the background color. Let's check what color has it. Background color, it's 303030. All right, so background color 303030, like this. Now we have it here. Now we want to add some spacing here inside the question and the answer. So let's see how much is it. Let's go to computed. It's 20 on the top and the bottom, 30 on the sides, and here inside the answer it's 3030. Okay, 20 30 30 30. Okay, so div question, and inside question we have this header. So let's do div class name header, and here let's do padding and 20 on the top and the bottom if I remember correctly, and 30 on the sides. Yeah, now with div question and div answer, let's do also padding of at this time 30 pixels on each side. Is it answer? No, it's content, but let's call it answer. So inside div question we have div answer like this. Yeah, and it looks nice. But I think we need some bigger text and we need some border here that will divide the question from the answer that we have here, which is this 1 pixel border. So inside header, let's do border bottom of 1 pixel, solid black, so it will be 000, and we forgot about solid. Right, so now let's also check the size of those texts. So font size, and it's 1.625. So inside, let's put it inside div questions because it will be same size for everything. Yeah, and we have it. It looks really nice. Now, another thing, I have this mouse pointing here, but I want to have a hand that I have here. So inside header, let's do cursor pointer. So I will have this hand. So user will think that it's clickable. And now let's fix the position of this X, closing. So from the top, let's try with 20. And from the right, let's do also 20. Yeah, I think that's better. Or maybe let's do 30 from the right. All right, so now we want to make it clickable. So to not use JavaScript, I will actually go to index.html and I will add here an input of type checkbox. And now I will add an ID of this on this checkbox. Let's do question 1. And here I will add for question 1. And instead of a div, I will make it a label. So now, and let's quickly fix styling. It's not div label, it's just label. Let's do display block. Yeah, like this. So now we have this input. And if we click on this label, that is our header, it toggles. What we can do with this? We can make different styling for those components when it's checked or not. So first we want to make this text hidden. So the answer should have 0 padding from the top and the bottom, and the max height should be 0, like this. And now we don't have the background, but the text spills over. So we need to add overflow hidden. So everything that is outside this div will be hidden. Okay, now we can add that div question with this input of type checkbox. If it's checked, we will style the div answer, and we will update those two. Let's do max height of, I don't know, 600 pixels. Now let's see if we check this checkbox. It doesn't work. Maybe because we need to do it like this, because those are not next to each other. Yeah, now it works. So when I clicked it, it opens and closes, and it checks this checkbox. Now I'll get rid of this checkbox. I will hide it, not get rid of it. So div question and input of type checkbox. Let me hide it. So let's try with display none. Does it still work? Yes, it does. Let's just update padding here. So it will have some, so the answer will have some padding from the top and the bottom. Yeah, but now something cool. I will add an animation or transition. So on the answer, I want to add transition on everything. So all. So I want to add on both padding and the max height. Let's say it will be 0.2 seconds and ease. And now if I click it, yeah, it slides. Okay, let's add some spacing here. So let's do margin bottom of, I don't know, 40 pixels. And that's much better. Now another animation I want to do is this plus and close button. So this SVG is here, but it's a close and close button. But when it's closed, I want it to be a plus. So when it's not open, so the default position, I would do transform, rotate, and here 45 degrees. So now it's a plus. But when we have the checkbox selected or checkbox checked, we want to rotate it back. So div question input checkbox checked. We want our SVG to transform, rotate to 0 degrees. Now it didn't work. Let's see why. Inside our index.html, it's inside the label. All right. So here we'll put div just label like this, because it's a label with class name label. Oops, sorry, with class name header. So now when we click it, it rotates, but it rotates too fast. So I'll add also transition here, 0.2 seconds ease on everything. Now, yeah, it rotates, but we can make it rotate even more. Let's do 90 degrees here, so it will rotate more. No, it doesn't. Let's do 180. Yeah, that's better. I like when it spins more. Now we can actually just copy paste this question. 2, 3, let's see how many. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't remember how many we have. We have 3. Okay, 4, 5, 6. Now the only problem is we need to update those IDs here. That's why it's highlighted with red. So here is the H2 question 2. Here we have question 3 and so on, so on. Question 4. Okay, I forgot about those. Well, the numbers doesn't matter, so let's do question 5 here. And here we'll do question 6. All right, let's see. Yeah, this works. But I want to add more spacing here. So let's go back to div with our questions. And after each question, I want to do a margin bottom of, I don't know, 20 pixels. Yeah, that works. Let's maybe change the text on the second. So how much does Netflix cost? How much does Netflix cost? And I will just copy paste it like this. So we have some variety. Yeah, it works. So now we have this. Now we need, the last part is this form here. So we can actually use the same styling and everything we use at the top here. So let's go to the top and let's copy HTML for this. So here we have div with class name splash, and here we have the form. Let's copy, scroll to the bottom, and still inside with our div FAQ. Let's put it inside it and let's see how it looks like. And it looks really bad, but let's go back to style CSS and let's scroll up to our form. where is it? Here we have splash, here we have form inside splash. So we have splash form, splash input with this span, which is a label that we are using this placeholder. And then we have some more stuff here. So I will change it that this form styling will be applied to inputs and buttons when there's a different name than splash. I will call it call to action, CTA. So I will copy this, and same for this input, same for this input with this label, and same for the input when it's focused, same for the input when it's focused and this label is moved, and now same for this button. So now this thing lost its styling, but we can add another class name here. So let's scroll to the top, and where is our form? Let's see. Here we have div splash, and we can just add the class name CTA, and it works. Now scroll to the bottom, we have our form here that is inside div with class name FIQ, but let's just add a CTA here like this. Scroll to the bottom, and it kind of works. It's too wide, and we'll just fix this wide problem. Let's scroll to the bottom of our CSS, and inside our div with FIQ class name, we have our form with this. So we want this form to take max width of the same. I don't know why it's not the same here, but I will do this the same. So I will take the same width that our question answers have. So I'll copy this, paste it here. Let's see how it looks like. Oh, not max have, sorry. Here inside our div questions, we have this max width 635, like this. Yeah, now it's more narrow. Now let's just make it margin 0 from the top and the bottom and out on the sides. Yeah, now it's perfect, but we have this text here that I want also to add inside our index.html. So inside our form, let's add a paragraph here, and let's add this text. All right, maybe we can put it outside of our div. So I'll cut this from here, and I will put maybe here like this, and I will change it to h3. All right, so now div FIQ h3 font wave will be normal, so it will not be bold. And now text align center, yeah, like this. And now I guess we need some more spacing. Yeah, like, I don't know, 40 here and 20 here. So let's do margin 40 on the top, 0 on the sides, and 20 on the bottom. Let's save it. Let's see how it looks like. And it looks much better. So one thing I forgot about is that our website will not look that awesome on smaller screens. And now we are going to fix it. So as you can see, it looks really good here on Netflix, but we also want to fix it. So let's check it here. The first problem is that this div splash is too small. So when it's this big, it's okay. But then it gets too small in height. So I will check what is the spacing here. Under, I will measure it like this, and it's 170. And when the screen is small, it's 95. All right, so now let's scroll to the top, and where our splash starts here. We have our content here, but we want to add some margins. So let's do margin, and 95 top and the bottom, 0 from the sides. It almost worked. It didn't work because we have margin left here. So I will do margin top 95 and margin bottom of also 95. Now let's inspect it here, and I will move it like this, and I will move the inspector to the right side. All right, so let's see where's our splash here. And here we have our content, and inside our content we have this div. So now the problem is that our div with class name content takes more space than default height of our background. So to change it, I will remove the position absolute from it. So let's go back to our splash div content. I'll remove position absolute, remove the inset because we don't need it. We don't need the left. We don't need the margin left. So now it's here. We need to move it here above. So it's under our background. So I will actually upgrade update our background. So let's do div, class name is splash, div background. I will add position absolute here. This now it's better, but let's add z index here of 1. But on our content, let's do position relative and let's do z index of try 3. Yeah, now it's much better. But we have this, let's refresh, but we have this weird margin here. Let's see where it comes from. I think it comes from the content margin from the top and the bottom. So it's actually here, but I can change it to padding. Yeah, and now it's better. So this kind of works, but the next problem we have is that the texts need to be smaller. So if I click inspect here, the headers need to be smaller and the button should be under the input. So let's start with the texts. Let's scroll here to the headers and we want to have different styling for our headers when the width of our browser is bigger than something. So let's say that it will change somewhere here. Yeah, you see? Here it changes. Let's measure our width. What is the width here? It's 350 something. Let's say 300. Let's say 330. Okay, so let's do like this. Media, like this. Media, screen, and minimum width should be 350 pixels. And here inside we'll put sizing for our desktop. The default will be for mobiles because we will do mobile first approach. So now it's the same sizing for both the mobile and the desktop, but we will change it. Let's inspect here. And H1 will have this size and H2 and H3 will have this size. H2 this size and same for H3. Let's see. I try to make it smaller. No, it doesn't work. Let's check this one. It's not 350. It should be more. Sorry. It's like 400. It should be 550 like this, right? Now it's much better. So now we fixed our headers. Let's maybe check this one. This one is bold, but it shouldn't be. Let's change this one to normal. Yeah, I think that's better. Yeah, a little bit. Now the problem is with our logo and the buttons. It's much smaller here and it doesn't get under each other. So inside our header, let's see, on mobile, it should be in height of 27 pixels. So 27 on mobile, 37 on desktop. So 27 here and here media, mean media screen and mean width of, we had this 550 pixels like this, and now we put the same, but the height will be 37. Yeah, so it's smaller. Now the next thing is that the spacing here should be also smaller. You see? Let's see how much do they have it here. It's 20 pixels. So here inside our header we have 56 and it should be 20. So I will copy this and for our header, this padding should be for desktop. For mobile, we should have on the sides 20 pixels like this. Let's also change this first column to not take 50%, but max content. Yeah, now it's better. I think the logo is a little bigger on our side, but it's not that important. Right, but spacing here is also too big. So let's fix it. So where we have our buttons, here we have our button and here we have our select. It has margin right of 30 pixels. Let's do this margin right of 30 pixels only on desktop. So header div select margin right 30 pixels. But default on mobile, let's do 10 pixels and that's enough. All right, so this works. Now the next part is this form. So let's scroll to the place where we have our form and call to action. And there's a lot of stuff to style here, but the most important is this template columns. So I will copy this part and now the template columns should be like this on desktop. So I will copy also the grid part because it shouldn't be a grid, it should be display block as a default on mobile, and we don't need this grid template columns on mobile. It will only be on desktop version. So let's see now. Yeah, it's under each other. Now we also need some like 20%, 20 pixels here, but we can actually put it back. And even if it looks bad, we can change this one to 1FR. Yeah, so it's under each other. So on the mobile, the columns will be just one column and then another row, another column. And when it's desktop, it will be two columns because we have two values here. The first will take as much space as possible and the second will be as much as content needs column. All right, so now we just need some gap here. So let's do row gap, and I think 20 pixels should work fine. Even too much. Let's do 15 pixels. Yeah, that's better. We need some spacing from the left and the right. So on our form, let's change this margin top to just margin and 20 from the top. And now we also want like 20 from the sides and 0 from the bottom. So now we had some spacing here and spacing here. All right, so now we want our button to be smaller. So where is our button? Here is our button. So let's place our media screen query, and our call to action button should be big here. So I'll copy those here. The desktop version will be moved here, and here will be the default version for our mobiles. So let's see what is the font size here. And the font size is 1 rem, so the default. And the padding is also much smaller. Let's see, it's 5 and 16 on the side. 5 and 16. Whoops, not here. It's 5 from the top and the bottom and 16 on the sides. Let's see. Yeah, that's better. But we need some small border. No, it should be a little bigger. Let's try with 10. Yeah, we also want some border radius on mobile. So let's do border radius of, I don't know, 4 pixels. Yeah, and we don't want any border radius on desktop, so let's do here border radius 0, and maybe smaller border radius, that's 2 pixels. Yeah, that will work. Now let's fix our sections because they look really bad. So here we have our sections, and first let's fix this section part. So I'll paste it here. The desktop version should be the default version and the mobile version should be changed. So let's do section, and the section on desktop should have this template columns thing, and the template columns should be just one column on mobile like this, but on desktop we will have 2 columns. All right, so the next problem is that the texts are too big. So let's see, let's check the size of this text. It's this big. So here inside our H1, let's also copy again this media query, and section div texts H1 should be much smaller and it should be this big, but this should be on mobile. So I will need to put it here, and the desktop version should be moved here like this. Yeah, now the same should be done for the paragraph. So I will just copy this and add another under paragraph, change it to P, and I think this will be just 1 rem or even smaller. Let's see. Oh, sorry, it should be 1 rem here, but on the desktop it should be this big. So 1 rem here, and let's see. Yeah, that's better. Now, as you can see on mobiles, the texts are centered. So let's see where we are here. Let's define the center on our section. So the default text align should be center, but on desktop it should be different. It should be left. So I'll add it here, and on desktop, I mean desktop because it's minimum of 550 pixels, the text align should be left. All right, so now it's centered, but now some sections they look really bad with those videos. So we need to place them again. This one, the first one, and the third one, those with videos. So here is the video of our first section. Maybe we could change the width to percentage, so it will scale automatically like this, but not 70, almost there, a little bit more, 74, yeah, almost there. We need to change this left thing, or maybe we can do margin left to -3%, even smaller, 2%, and margin top of 2%. Oops, -2%. 3, same here, and a little smaller, 72. and here -2. Yeah, I think this works nice. So now let's see how it looks like on the big screen. Yeah, kind of good. You can fix the percentage and those pixels yourself, so it will be perfect. But I will also fix this third section with this video because it's also too big. And let's try to use also percentage here. So the width should be, let's say 760 pixels, 60%, sorry, the image, the video, 60%. Yeah, we are almost there. Let's see. We have video here. And I think it just works. No, it should be moved more to the left side. Yeah, plenty of space here. Let's try 62. Oh no, let's do margin left and let's do percentage. -3%. Yeah, I think that will work. I think that works nice. Let's see on the desktop. Well, almost we can push it a little bit more here. Yeah, that will work. All right, so now this thing works, but I think we have one problem that now the texts are on the top here, but on the bottom here, and on the top on the third section and under the image on the fourth. And when it's on mobile, on Netflix, mobile version, the texts are always at the top of the media. We have this order thing somewhere here inside our texts. Let's see. So here we have it, that on even sections, the text should have order too. So on the second and fourth section, the text should be second, not first as a column. And to fix it, we will just add a media query here like this. So this rule, the changing of the order of the text column, will apply only for desktop. So now, as you can see, we are on mobile size and the texts are always at the top. Yeah. Now maybe let's fix this because it looks terrible. So let's scroll down to our FAQ and first let's fix this H1. I'll put an empty media query here. So I will just copy this thing here and the default size of this H1 on mobile should be much smaller. Let's see how big it should be. It should be this big, 1.6 something. And so I will put it here as a default, this size. And on desktop, it will be this size. So now it works better. Same for the questions and answers. But the center will be the same on the both, so we can get rid of this. And margin bottom will be also the same, so we can get rid of this. Because when we have text align center here, those styles that are here will be applied if min width is at least 550, but it will apply those and those because we don't have any limitation on those. There's no media query on this. All right, so now for the texts here, I think this text size is 1 rem, so I will change it here. As you can see, we have font size of 1.6 something here. I will add an empty media query here, and div questions should have font size of this on desktop, so we put it inside this media query, but on mobile, so the default one should be just 1 rem. So now it's much smaller text here, and I think it works much better. And I think the last thing is that this button should be centered. Let's see. Yeah, it should be. So let's scroll down to our FAQ form and let's check where it is. Where is it? So the second div should be centered. We can do just div the FAQ and here div, but we have two divs. Here's the first one. It's the one with the input. The second one is with this button. So we can do just next div, so plus div, and here let's do text align center. And now our button is centered. But I don't know what happened here, but the texts are centered too. Let's see. All right, so this applies to every second div and so on. So that's why this one is centered to the left, but all others are centered. And this one is aligned to the left as a default. So this one applies to all those divs and then on those two. I forgot to add the form here. Now it's better. Now only this one is centered. And when it comes to those divs with questions, all of them are centered, aligned to the left, not centered. Sorry. All right. And it looks good, almost good on desktop. The one thing is this call to action here that is not centered. So I will scroll to the top. Let's see here where we have our splash, we have our content, and here we need to add margin of 0 auto. So this will be centered. 0 margin from the top and the bottom, and auto on the sides. This spacing in the top and the bottom comes from padding, so it's not margin. Here we have margin, 0 top and the bottom, but padding top is 95, padding bottom is also 95. So this one works. It looks worse here, but it's because it looks better here because they have more spacing here, but we can fix it. So here at the bottom, they have like 180, and at the top, they have like 230, 180 to 130. Okay, so let's put them in the query here. I will paste it from my clipboard like this. And now let's update the padding top and the padding bottom, but not like this, but let's do div splash and div content. So for this element, we will update padding top and padding bottom. Here it was at the top 235 and 180 something at the bottom. Let's check it. Yeah, now it's much better. But now the problem is that this image here at the background doesn't fit the height of our content. So let's go to our background. Here we have it. So to fix it, we need to go to our background image and we need to do object fit cover. And also here inside our div background, we need to add inset to 0. So let's see if it takes all the height here. Yes, it does, but the image doesn't because it has this max width of 100%. I will get rid of this and I will do height of 100%, and now it works. I'll get rid of this, yeah, like this, and now it looks much better. Maybe we will also add some spacing here. So inside our splash content, we will add some padding on the sides. So let's do padding. And from the top and the bottom, we both have 95, so we can move it here. And on the sides, let's do 20, and we can get rid of those two. Yeah, so now we have some spacing on the left and right for our content. The input should be maybe smaller, maybe not, maybe a little bit smaller, but it's not that important. It looks good here. All right, and I think everything looks nice now. Yeah, so that will be all for today. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. Have a nice day and see you in the next one.